Kuru.
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम अमेय पांडे है। मैं 16 साल का हूँ and today I'll be explaining why Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is the greatest Hindu king of all time, or one of the greatest. So firstly, let us start with stating the fact that he is a winner. So as we know, back in the medieval times when multiple enemies were invading Bharat, we had many brave kings stand up against them, but ultimately all of them ended up perishing in the end. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj did not. He suffered minor setbacks time to time, but in the end he did not lose track of his goal and he won. He was a winner, which is why he's a great king. Secondly, he was a benevolent ruler. So as we know, a common trait of great kings is that they're very cruel, right? Like Napoleon or Alexander, they were very cruel people. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a man of morals. So for example, incident would be that one time they found the Quran on the battlefield, and instead of burning it, he returned it to the mosque with honor. Moreover, another time they found a princess on the battlefield, and instead of selling her for slavery, they also returned it. Thirdly, the reason why he's a great king is because he never lost sight of his goal. His goal was to build Swaraj, which is basically a Hindu sovereign nation, free of Muslim influence, and he achieved that. Other kings, they get blinded by the greed and power they get. He stood on his path and he kept at it. Another reason why he's a great king is that he purged the country of Muslim influences. As we know, the language that we speak, Hindi, it has many Urdu influences. He ensured that Marathi was free of Urdu influences and he replaced those words with Sanskrit. Some other information was that he changed the administrative system. So he introduced like a judiciary system so that the common people got the justice they deserve. Moreover, instead of operating based on caste or things like that, he established a system that's developed based on meritocracy. So basically, based on your position depends on your abilities, which is not common at that time. Another way that he achieved his goal of Swaraj is that he purged the country of Muslim influence by removing the Urdu from our language, and he also initiated Shuddhikaran. So basically, back in those times when Hindus were forcefully converted to Muslim side, either via tax or via violence. So what would happen was that when they tried to return back to their society out of sense of duty, because they want to be Hindu, they would not be accepted because people were too orthodox, too prideful. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a very open-minded man. He initiated Shuddhikaran, which is basically saying, come back, become Hindu, and there was no like show stigma to if you were a Muslim prior on. Moreover, as a righteous king, he focused on things that were not focused on by other kings, such as the navy, and he used guerrilla tactics. Now, these tactics were not very common at the time. He used the terrain to fight back against the Muslims, which were of greater numbers, and he won every single time. Sometimes he would suffer setbacks, but overall, in the end, in the big picture, he won against the British, the Sultans, and the Muslims. And he built a great navy, and they went all the way to the Andamans, which is why I would like to conclude that I believe Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is a very great king. Other reasons as to why I believe that he's a great king, other than the fact that he re-established the administrative system and he developed a system based on meritocracy, is that he did charity. So whenever there would be like floods or droughts, he would give assistance to his subjects. Now this is rather uncommon because back in those times, the kings were very corrupt. They would just live a lavish lifestyle. They would not help the common public, and he did not engage in such activities. He was an honest man. Moreover, he inspired confidence in his subjects. So for example, one day, one of his subordinates was having a wedding, and he told them to go attack a fort, and they did. Now that is very uncommon. If you see politics nowadays, nobody has subordinates that are this like willing to work for you, right? He was a charismatic man, and he inspired people to follow him. And they did not follow him out of fear, right? Fear is a strong weapon, but they followed him out of a sense of duty, and that's very admirable. So basically, right, they knew that what this man was doing was the correct path. Building the Swaraj was the right option. And so they followed him and they were willing to die for him. And that is the mark of a great man. There are less than 100 people throughout our history who are so great that they can make someone follow them just based on the purity of their ideals. Which is why I think that he's an amazing king and one of, if not the greatest king in our history. Thank you so much.